Men encouraging men. We're here to inspire, elevate, and motivate our brothers. Let's talk. Live Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. on Hope 103.1 FM. It's Hope for Men.
Put it all behind me, where my flaws won't find me. And please don't remind me at all. I regret everything. Can you hold a secret? Never told my deepest. 'Cause my soul feels weak and my mind is full of repressed memories. Hey superstar, don't let those yesterdays get too far under your skin. 'Cause what happened back then can't define who you are. I can relate because I know just how you feel. We're just alike. Instead of carrying all this weight, I pour this pain into a mic. And it's so hard to think about. I'm just a guy, was just a kid who never thought I'd make it out. Was justified in what I did. I held my breath. Soon as I blinked, opened my eyes, there goes tomorrow. I showed how grateful I've been right when I made it through. 'Cause I put it all behind me, where my flaws won't find me. And please don't remind me at all. I regret everything. Can you hold a secret? Never told my deepest. 'Cause my soul feels weak and my mind is full of repressed memories. Hey little child who's lonely, your better days are not far. Sometimes life it gets ugly, and every day it feels hard. You're good at hiding your feelings, you don't like showing your hurt. You're tired of trying, but really you just don't know what you're worth. Well, I know something about it, because I've dealt with the same shame and doubt. I'd sit and pout, convinced it never would change. Soon as I blink, open my eyes, there goes tomorrow. I showed how grateful I have been right when I made it through. 'Cause I put it all behind me, where my flaws won't find me. And please don't remind me at all. I regret everything. Can you hold a secret? Never told my deepest. 'Cause my soul feels weak and my mind is full of repressed memories.
Pleasant good night to everyone. Locked into Hoop 103.1 FM. Welcome to Hoop for Men. And that song right there was for my my partner. I'm a partner, you know, got a new partner is called Gifted Hands. See, man that doesn't have any hands, but he's a gift. His whole body is a gift according to him. Yeah. All right. And the man was talking about repressed memories, you know, but things you need to put away because they have the potential to affect you even in your know. All right, so I want to say thank you for joining us tonight once again, wherever you tuned in from. If you tuned in on Hope FM, if you tuned in on Facebook, if you tuned in on YouTube, it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight again on our program, Hope for Men. It's men encouraging men. That's what we're about tonight. It's a beautiful night for Trevor because it is his anniversary. So, so be sitting in for him. You understand?
Happy anniversary to the big man himself.
The man and the woman. So they're enjoying themselves tonight, so he can't make it. Nonetheless, our brother Roger will be joining us in a little bit. And of course, last week Bishop fell asleep. But you look as though he fell asleep this week again. But we're talking about the flip side from last week's program. Last week's program was men masking their emotions. And this week we're going to talk about men unmasking their emotions. All right, so that's what the talk will be about tonight. Me and Sin be going to hit it off. and let's see where it goes. All right, so God, when I think about men masking emotions, I feel like men sometimes hide behind um, emotions, but also men sometimes uh, the whole word of masculinity comes into play, you know, like the stereotype idea of what it means to be a man, to be a typical man. Most men have some sort of idea that they got from somewhere, something that make them say and believe that they are a man.
Yeah.
One time we did a program, me and Trevor, that says that the name of the program was "Male is Not Man," and it leaves me to think when I think about that, like, a lot of men don't understand themselves. They don't understand themselves, and age doesn't mean that you have reached that place where you fully understand yourself as a man. You understand? And people may tell you what it means to be a man, and you probably take it to believe that is what manhood is all about. But in reality, many of the time, it is far from the truth. If you can think about some things, God, as far as like when you were growing up, that persons would say to you, "Hey, this is what being a man is all about."
It's all about.
Yeah, I don't know if you can think about anything along that line. Let me get my brother online with me the one time.
Yeah.
Blessings, brother, inside the vault. Yeah, because you're the
All right.
yeah.
But just thinking back,
Mm-hmm.
or reflecting on where the concept of manhood first came from,
Right.
I would say it would be seeing my father and my elder brother,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's where the first concept of manhood for me originated,
Right.
and just reflecting on what I saw, what I've gotten to understand manhood to be, and what I try to practice today.
Mm-hmm.
There are differences coming through. Some louder than others,
Mm-hmm.
but um, apart from father and brother, society also showed you, or put on this image as to what manhood was, or what it should have been, right? And again, when you do your little introspection, and you're reading and all these different things, you see that even what society says a man should be, some of it is a bit warped, right? So that's how early I can remember, the first images of manhood. You would see men being, more rowdy, um, probably even more physical in school. You saw boys fighting, right? Some trying to be bullies, some being bullies. You looked around, you saw the men linemen in the rum shop, men playing sport, right? You saw men doing the hard labor,
Yeah.
and all these things are more or less what gave you that image of manhood.
Well,
And
yeah, go ahead.
just this last point, and you always heard that men supposed to be tough and not show emotions, and men don't cry, big men don't cry. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Roger, if you're ready, just give me a thumbs up. If you're ready. All right, don't I ain't see anything yet. But I think that's a valid point, and let me say good night to Donna Duncan and Kelly and Francis. It amazes me sometimes that you don't find the men on the program, but sometimes the ladies is always come on the program.
Yeah, well, that's probably a blessing in
I think I
disguise.
know what the reason is.
Yeah, But
Mm.
before we move on, a special good night to Donna Duncan,
All right,
all the way
Roger.
in Trinidad, a dear friend of mine.
Okay, okay, Roger. Roger. On with your mic.
Good night, good night, good night.
Yeah, yeah. Good night. It is more long here. Good to have you with us, brother. Good to have you with us. I ain't see Bishop. The Bishop
Night,
probably,
night. Send me how you doing.
Good,
yeah,
good, 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 good.
the
Good
Bishop
night.
probably fall asleep. Yeah, but
Sorry,
even as
sorry to be
we
on late.
man, that's okay. Even as we discuss this discussion, let's talk like let's talk about some of the ways we think masculinity can be what I would call or deem toxic. You know, let's talk about some of the ways that you think masculinity, the whole idea of masculinity. I think it is a valid thing. All right, masculinity, it has a place, but I also believe it can. And say we kind of started going into it, but it can be toxic just the same. You know, sometimes based on what you're being taught as a man, it's not necessarily good, right? And men, we learn some. Remember, we learn both ways, right? We learn when people teach us things, and we also learn by when we look at others. I remember when I just not when I wasn't married, but I remember I went by a man, and like I saw how he was, talking to his wife, and I got this idea just because of how I see the man talking to his wife. I knew when the thing slipped into me that that's the way you're supposed to talk to your wife, and I had to relearn that idea along the way because if that worked for him, that definitely wasn't working for me. You understand? That got me into more trouble than anything else. You check? And that's because sometimes we have our own ways, how we handle things and we learn it from somebody else, God was saying. So if you can think about some ways that we think that masculinity can be toxic, when you think about it, like what comes to mind, to your mind? And I also want to just let the listening public know and the ladies there to know that they can feel free to jump in on the conversation, to text, to say something. We open to hear from you also. All right. So Raja, I'll give you opportunity to go because we didn't hear you, but good night for the night.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Well, masculinity, we create we have actually made the word toxic ourselves.
Yeah, look as though Raja got stuck
Yeah,
the internet jump on him. But if I you're back?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
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 I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
I was saying that we actually made the word toxic ourselves. In that our point of reference when it comes to masculinity is not in the right place, right? Like one person asked a question, in the Caribbean context, what is a Caribbean man, right? I don't know why they choose to um, define man in a Caribbean context, in an Asian context, in a North American context, right? God made man in his own image and likeness. And the reference point to masculinity is has been taught by God. It's in the Bible, whether you Asian, European, Caribbean. But we choose to define and create its own definition in its own geographic context, so that we could remake, in my humble opinion, what the man should be in this part of the world as opposed to another part of the world. So I think there were some attempts, if I'm wrong, subject to correction, But I think there was some attempts to come up with a definition of the Caribbean man, and hopefully to get that cascaded right down into education system. So everything as to how we develop, how we teach and develop the Caribbean man is aimed at the definition that we would have set. And there's the definition is in the context talk to about being jolly and happy, and there were some other things. I probably don't want to misquote, but it really does not speak to man in the context of which God has designed him to be. So we create a toxicity when we come up with these different definitions and how we see the Caribbean man, for example, and then we grew up in an environment having some measure of expectations that this is what we should be, right? Um, and this is not what God intended for us. So once a reference point, in my humble opinion, well, I don't think it's opinion; it's factual. I mean, this is what it is. Once a reference point is not from Christ teaching, then everything else is wrong. This is just how I see it. So the toxic environment that we have created and the spoilt that we have placed on the word of masculinity is really misguided, um, and can only be properly positioned if we take the teachings of Christ.
Yeah. That what's your take?
That's a very good point that you're bringing out. The position which we take masculinity from, because when you look around in society, when you look at the church, which your point is basing, or the Bible, which you're basing your point is basing masculinity on, you see few men in the church, right? And majority of men outside of the church. So the question would then be, who is teaching, who is really teaching, or who has the bigger grasp on developing men of our nation, right? And it's probably a question for our leaders, or Christian leaders, to ask themselves: are they really portraying Christman to the nations, right? Are they really do their programs in churches, do their whole um, theology support a Christman to the nation, so that people can see what a true Christman is and supposed to be, and one that can be emulated, right? Because outside of that, and if you look around at society, you would see that a lot of people are influenced not by Christman, right, but by the world man, or the man in society, right? And they take that as being male, being masculine, whether you want to call it toxic or not, right? But that's the spotlight is more placed on the male from the world, and less of the Christman.
I think to add with your point, what I would say is based on my observation. Now if you pay attention to some of the music that are put out there today, like what artists put out today, they are, selling an idea of masculinity to young men, right? For example, you may hear what they call like a bad man tune. When a man sing a tune that you consider to be a bad man tune, right? One thing you have to know: if somebody step on your corn, you need to cut them down, right? What if somebody says something to you and it hurts you? As a man, should your response be to hurt the man back? And I want to be real practical with it, right? The music that a lot of youth men listen to these days, young men, it says if somebody does something to you and in the most explicit language, respond. You understand? Respond and respond in a certain way. Don't you can't be soft. You can't be an idiot. You can't be a fool. Right? So even if the father is trying to teach something, but access to certain devices and so forth for young children, and I'm saying that because you see, they say it's easy to bend the tree when it is when he young, right? When the tree is young, but when the tree get older, it's harder to bend the tree. So if parents, if men in society are portraying certain things to young men, making them feel that is the way, you understand? As God rightfully said, big man don't cry. Right? When you think about toxicity in terms of where masculinity is concerned, you think about men, as you were saying, they don't show no emotions, or what you find is that the emotion that they are most inclined to portray is that of anger. That's like the easiest thing for them to express. And men, the whole idea of toxicity where masculinity is concerned is like men don't want to be vulnerable even when they're going through pain or they have a hard time. They find it hard to have a conversation with somebody to say, bro, I'm hurting, or whoever they can talk to and express, to how they feel. It's like, nah, I can't let people see me like that. Like, you're mad. Or if a person know are going through that, and that type of mentality can really make it hard for men. You understand? It causes men to sometimes have mental issues. Last week, Roger, we were talking about being able to cry, and men don't want to cry. And when we were talking about it, it's like if you're suppressing all that kind of feeling inside as a man, you don't want to unmask what you're feeling. You know what would happen to you? You go blow up. You go cuckoo. So, but sometimes the reason why men find it hard to unmask the way they feel, again, because they have been fed so much junk throughout the young ages into the adult age, that they have this perception in their head that if a man see me crying, or if a man see me sad, or if a woman see me sad, or whoever it is if they see me sad, they probably would think the worst of me. So I cannot afford to put myself in a vulnerable position to please who? I'm not going there.
Yeah, but you see, the flip side to that is, and this is the truth, men that show more emotions or the softer emotions are generally looked down upon. Right? So females see a man crying, they would think that he's soft.
Well,
right? Society would see him as being soft. Right? So me knowing that society would look at me a particular way,
a soft man,
will,
and you're getting nickname with it.
Somewhat, it will shape how I show my emotions.
No, it will put a stigma on your life.
Right?
You gotta say it right way.
So it might mean that I will cry, but I definitely won't cry for nobody to see. Public. Right? What I will do, I will cry in private.
But I understand what you're saying. But does that make you more manly? Does that express for men who are doing these things? Does that allow you? Is that does that make you not man, so to speak, or does that is what emasculate?
Right.
If you don't, or if you express yourself, that pain you're feeling openly.
I think it has the potential to, if it's done
so is that pressure
in the wrong settings. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is that pressure to be
There's a
tough?
pressure to be tough. Yeah. There's
Roger,
a
what's your
pressure
take?
to be
What's your
tough.
point, Roger? Let me hear you. You're smiling.
No, no, I understand where Sen B is coming from.
Mm.
Um, and some men may do it for, I mean, may hide it from from the public for different reasons. I
Mm.
mean, a classic example is I've just lost my sister Sunday gone,
Mhm.
and I went to the hospital before the undertaker would have moved away from the hospital bed, and the emotions was what it is right there and then. Freely expressing, how I felt in the moment,
Right.
and of course, uh, in the midst were quite a lot of female nurses and visitors who were visiting other persons on beds close by. And did I really care? No, because the nor was I even conscious of the fact that they were there, because the emotions were real and genuine,
Mhm.
coming from a place where it is what it is. But then I get home, right, and and there's my children. I understand how that can have an impact on them. So not like I'm afraid to cry in front of them, but no, I'm concerned as to their own emotions and how they feel about it. I understand what the power of my tears could do to them. I've seen what how they would have been affected by that. Something about when daddy cries.
Mhm.
So I would have gone in the room, and cried there without their knowing. But they know that I'm sad, but I just was not seeing the outward expression of that sadness in a way that, could have potentially affected them in a time when I don't want them to be affected that way, you know. So sometimes you have that. But at the same time, um, yeah, and we talk about that, Sabi.
Yeah.
If last week, if you are your true authentic self, and 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 you have a higher understanding of your purpose here on earth and your connection with Christ, you will become a person that really would not care too much about what people think or feel
Yeah.
about what you do. Once you know you're in the right place and doing it.
Well, you see, it's one thing to feel a pressure to be tough, but I think it sucks when men are when you're in pain, right? So you're feeling pain and you're experiencing hardship. I think most men you would see when they're under that pressure from society, from their peers, from their past, from voices in their head, what they normally do, it turns out to be risky because you might see a perfectly good man with a good, education, good job, la la la. And then tomorrow the man just start abusing alcohol, you know, and he start doing some risky stuff. You have a vehicle he driving hard, you wondering, well, what going on with this man? So it comes out in behavior, it comes out in a kind of in a way, it comes out in action. But what you see is not really what it is. It is something more inside. You understand? And that's when men sometimes under that kind of psychological pressure, they they, they don't that thing could kill you, brother. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Watch now. If you ever experience pressure, pressure to cause your pressure to rise and your head to hurt you and your heart start beating fast and your mind goes in a dark place, you have a good idea what I'm talking about. And bro, I won't kid you. The only way to move from that place, man, is to be open and transparent with somebody as a man
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tell them what you're going through. If you try to hold on to that, and watch now, you ever see man just shrinking? They can't eat and thing. Boy, sometimes it's just a, and then pressure could come from different places. Sometimes you have man blaming themselves for things that they have done wrong, right? So they have done certain things and they know, wow. And then they never thought they would have done that kind of thing. So it hit them different like a ton of bricks when truth started come out and maybe somehow something get leaked. You know, last week we was talking about the man um that if you have erectile dysfunction and that's a big secret and boom, he go on the block and he partner found that he partner hear the woman that he involved with come and she see that how that is like that tarnishing the man for life. You understand? And that also can cause men to move to a place where they become very aggressive and the action it become violent. But that's when masculinity becomes toxic, if you check what I'm saying, where the poison is in it. Because in the absence of counsel, a lot of times counsel, if men could just bring themselves to that place where they realize, hey, I need somebody to give me some direction here, it will make a big difference. And when enough men can't get to that place because they figure they have to be private Ryan, then God go tell you better. I want to call
I
it up.
I don't know what's interesting is that um, men will choose those actions that
Mm.
they deem to be masculine actions
Yeah.
um, when they need to have an emotional outburst, right?
Talk about
Suggesting to talk to a brother, go to a counselor,
yeah.
whatever. That is soft, right?
Yeah.
I go use some harsh words that I'm able to maintain my masculinity.
Mm.
If I do that, I'm gonna threaten somebody. I go use a cutlass, right? Piece of wood. I go bang up on something. I go break something. I go pelt a glass.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that makes
The
so.
anger coming out.
I'm
Hmm.
struggling, right? I'm struggling, right? With the emotions, but I'm still trying to hold on to a masculine position by doing these things that are deemed to be masculine. When there is really nothing wrong, right? In just talking to someone, something.
Conversation.
I saw something the other day that was interesting. A lady mentioned that the power of a man is in what he his words is what he say, and
Mm.
this is why men not what his actions, right?
Okay.
And this is why men have to be careful about the outbursts and so on, right? Unlike women, the power in what in them is what they say. So this is why they manage that what they say by the silence, not to be silent, right? But by being silent, they're able to assess and interpret. And of course, when they start to talk, people listen and so on. So the power of the woman is in the words, what they say, and the man is by the actions. No, I don't know. Psychologists come up with all these kind of things and so on. Man make these things. However, what is instructive there is if there is a tendency that this is what we've seen in the world, men are very they do a lot. They're very actionable with their emotional outbursts. Then that is good enough to recognize that to control it, it requires you to deliberately do something controllable because the outbursts, right, could land you in problems. So um, if a man just take that position, I think he recognize, let me look at an alternative that is able to manage the outburst as opposed to, you know, being doable with, actionable stuff. I can recall in the very early days where my employer, when we introduced the what we call an employee assistance program, which allows staff um, a maximum of X hours of free counseling in any one financial year. Uh, the office of the counselor was located close to um, my place of work, and for the few men that utilize the service, right, you would see they would be standing outside the compound of the counselor, and they will look up Church Street, down Church Street, make sure nobody's looking at them, and then they will dash into the office of the counselor because they don't want nobody see them, right?
I
Go
picked my
into a counselor. Good night, Bishop.
let me show, boy. I think you fell asleep or something and see what but that's okay. You jump right into the conversation. You fix up yourself, Raja. Continue, and we'll go. You're coming in soon, course. Yeah.
But the few men, after rushing in because they didn't want nobody to see them, right, would always tell you that
Mm,
it was a most rewarding experience just sitting there for the half an hour or the 45 minutes they had with the counselor and just talking through things, right?
mm,
Um, and as last week, as we say, we give a lot of attention to so many aspects of our body and we tend to neglect the mental side of
that
things,
side, yeah.
Mhm.
right? And we never take the masculinity as a blanket definition. I tell you why. Um, all all of us grew up in different homes, different environment, and so on. Right? What I learned in being a man would be quite different to you, Sabi,
Hmm.
Sandeep, Bishop,
Yeah.
right? Because the teachings was just different and everything. I mean, I went to GBSS, and you know, being growing up at GBSS, the masculinity was about. I mean, reflection. I mean, sad to say, it was about always trying to be rough and gruff, and it was really a self-preservation
Mm,
for a lot of us because it was an hostile environment.
hmm.
And if you are timid, then you get beaten. And so to make sure that you're not taken advantage of, um, then you portray something that you're deemed to be masculine, and that's something that somebody would be afraid of because
Right.
you're right. So whether you walk like the bad boy, or you cuss a few words, or you pelt a chair, so that the whole school knows that this guy pelt a chair and should not be played around with. And I could just imagine how much persons who would have never gotten out of that zone after
That's the
school,
thing. That's the
and
thing.
it got escalated, and it
Mm-hmm.
went on to be permanent aspects of their life,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, luckily for me, I may have been detoxified with that attitude, living in a home with just strictly females. So after the day now, I go home, to deal with all the other softer issues. A mother see you coming home from school and want to hug you. The only boy home, and you want to feel spoiled. And so it may have helped with the detoxifying and neutralizing
Yeah.
the possible dangerous outcomes of what I described. Um, and that is why, in the context of the assembly of men, whether it's in the church environment, church domain, or whether it's men in assemblance with Christ, we need to not take it for granted that because we all congregate as men, that we truly know what it is to be a man. That would be a dangerous position to take. And and even when we may all think that, well, I'm a Christian, you are Christian, we are Christian, and that should make us know what it is to be a man. That will still be a dangerous position to take, because you'll be surprised to see how much Christian men um, how they treat the children, the family, the spouse. You wonder, you'll be shocked, and it may not necessarily have anything to do with the fact that they just choose on their own doing, but they are burning, and what they understand it is to be a man is just different.
Yeah, well, you have a point, and just some things that you said that I mean, in the funny sense, in terms of the illustration or the example by way of where you see men will throw a chair, as you would say, or bully others. Especially, you would find the older ones looking for a way to bully the younger ones in school, for example, and sometimes, as you say, they don't grow out of that kind of mentality because they go into the workplace and it's the same kind of mentality. They would pick on the weak. You would find men who probably, and I think that's when it gets hard for sometimes of some Christian younger men who probably don't know themselves. I remember talking to one gentleman working in a particular bank, um, and he said to me, boy, I grew up in the church and thing, and my parents raised me well. Was like since I came into this bank, my whole lifestyle changed. You know, and the things he was, just opening up and telling me, and I was telling him, well, better. See, yeah, but in this place you have to move different, and that just go to show like the pressure that sometimes that is placed on men, not only from other men, but sometimes by other women, older women trying to make men feel, um, if you don't step up to the plate to eat the food, then you're not a man. And some men, some men fall for that trap very, 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 very easy. You understand what I'm saying? So when you think about that, it's a whole nother level. I think one of the areas we could probably chew up on a little bit is the idea of domestic violence in the home, right? And I'll allow Bishop to talk on that, share whatever is on his heart on that area. I realize you're moving kind of sticky, Bishop, but maybe your internet. So I hope you'll come through clear if you're hearing me. But if you
I'm,
can, yeah,
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you, Sam.
yeah.
I want to say good night to the man on the panel, my brother in studio. I am not familiar with your name, Brother
Right.
Duncan.
This is brother send me
Okay, Brother Selby, Brother
send,
Duncan.
send
I
me.
want to really greet Brother Duncan tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And Sabi, thank you for having me. And when it comes to the violence that we see, especially domestic, we know that there are so many things that have been masked going into areas of domestic violence. And when you look at anger, you see anger is a birthplace of solutions. When you're angry about something, is a birthing place that is taking place. The scripture says you could be angry, but don't sin. And it's a thin line because once you're angry about something that you sometimes you can't even change and you lash out, you realize that anger is the byproduct of a loss that a man carries. We saw how David was angry as a young man, very angry. His brothers saw the anger and it was reflected at the giant, and he won a powerful victory with that response. But we see today where men are using the anger towards the family. Dangerous, very dangerous. We saw where even David was angry with Nabal. And at that instance, that was not the anger to dwell in. Abigail had to come to, just diffuse that issue because it would have turned into something that was really violent. And we have to find ways to help that diffusion of the anger because it's there. It's the built-in place of solutions. But we find now that the hurt that is left There's no solutions that are birthed. It's just a rage that goes on. Because we saw when David was angry again in his areas of dealing with Bathsheba and Uriah, that anger was pent up. You didn't know it was there until the baby that was produced from that relationship died. And the prophet had to come and, really deal with that issue that was pent up. So sometimes we have to really announce and help men to realize that anger is a birthing place of solutions, but we cannot use it against our families, our spouses, our loved ones, because when it's used in that light, we begin to see that at the end of the whole cycle, God said to David, don't even touch the temple. Don't even try to build the temple, because your hands have that blood, because the birthing place of solution has been turned now into rejection. And we have to be able to encourage men to know that God is the one who is going to, establish you. And he's the one that is going to, in the first place, he's the one that releases the emotion. But because of sin, all of these emotions are out of their orbit. They are thrown into a whole tangent whereby you can't even control. If you don't allow the Lord to really rest upon your heart, you can't even control some of these things that are happening, because we have been given 50 different ranges of emotions. And from those 50 different ranges of emotions, we, as men, we could explode, because we know that once you change your focus, you change your feelings. Once you change your focus, you change your feelings. If you don't change your focus, then your feelings wouldn't change. So we have to really encourage men to change their focus. And the moment you change your focus, you're going to change your feelings, because it's from the feelings that these things arise. And you cannot, you cannot correct what you are unwilling to confront. You just cannot correct what you're unwilling to confront. And emotionally, sometimes we don't want to confront the issue. We don't want to confront the anger. And the anger, most of the times, the anger is just a byproduct, just a byproduct of a greater loss that is there. And it's so emotional, you see how the issue arises. The anger tries to block the emotional, and when you look at the emotional issue, it's something that happened whereby the solution is so simple, but the emotional areas of our lives as men has been so given to us to respond and to find solutions that we could be frustrated at the same time and turn that solution into rage. And domestic violence, it's at the top of the tier right now in every area. Governments, military, police, everyone is trying to get the solution for this. And it's not something that is ordinary, because pain, what we should really emphasize tonight as we're talking on this is pain is not the enemy, because sometimes domestic violence comes out of pain and receiving on the receiving end at times. But pain is not the enemy, but it's just going to reveal who the enemy is. Pain is not your enemy, but it's just going to reveal that the proof that an enemy exists. You see, we have to deal with anger in such a way where we know that this thing is the birthing place of solutions. But you can't be angry and allow your spouse, your children to be on the receiving end, because it's going to hurt so bad that the ego, because what happens with ego says you don't go back and try to change that, but just continue in that rage, continue in that to show who is boss. And at the same time, love is saying this is not the way. This is not how it should be done. So it's a fight. When a man gets into a rage, love is there because love conquers everything. But you switch off love and you try to solve the issue, not knowing that you're in a button room, you're in a button place, and you could destroy and abort the whole. And that's what we have been seeing. Men are aborting their future, aborting everything that destiny holds for them, not knowing that love is right there. But the ego, the way in which we have been designed, that ego is switched off, and we are unable to capture love in that moment.
Bishop, let me share. Uh, I have quite a lot of persons who would tell me things like, Roger, I don't know how you stomaching this now. I don't know how you have been dealing with this for this long, or I don't know how you do this. And I smile because I tell you why. It's because I have come to really understand that it's not about the flesh and the blood, but there's this powers in a high place that wants to make me feel. And I'm not going to make the object of that failure or 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 fail by looking at the other person who I'm engaging with, if it's my spouse or if it's a colleague on work, as the enemy. Because I understand that these are some stuff happening in a very high realm that I'm not going to give the satisfaction. So, despite how challenging it is, I always try to remember that scripture. And it's a painful exercise. I'm very honest with you. And a lot of times I walk away, right? And I feel, I shouldn't. I probably should have deal with this person, right? Uh, but I mean, just a constant remember that this is just not about the flesh or the blood has really helped me a lot. And this is why it is really difficult sometimes for people to understand why I'm dealing with a particular situation the way I'm dealing with it.
Well, there's I think I was reading a book some time ago, and it says a lot of men don't like to deal with how they feel. So we are encouraged as men to deal with how you feel, and that is basically understanding you're not one sided as a man. You may have a trigger, but you also have a solution. There's also ways to take your finger off of that trigger. You can choose your emotion as a man, even as you're unmasking them. Doesn't mean that you have to retaliate against those who retaliating against you. You understand? Those who hate you, the Bible tells us that we should love them who say all manner of evil, those who persecute us, those who are us, so that Christ really gave us a way of life. If he bring us back to when he says the Moses law, if they slap you on one face, turn the other cheek. Men today don't want to turn the other cheek. Your man will turn his cheek. What? No, it's manly to stand and defend yourself. And what I'm not saying to be stupid and so forth. There are ways to do what you have to do, but you have to choose the higher path, and that's what I'm saying. So whenever not just at the workplace, but not just for the young man that is in school, not just the one that in college, university, where you find persons who generally probably they just don't like you. Maybe you're a success and they hate that about you, and they're gonna find ways to get at you to try to chip you to, But you have to deal with how you feel, take control, and choose how you respond to whatever situation. Roger said to me some time ago, I think we were doing a program and you mentioned something about today, based on survey in the banks, men they talk about roles like men not taking up certain job, and it's
Yeah.
called like what limited
They,
roles,
they see banking is for the girls, not men.
right? And it's amazing. It's not just banking or these type of jobs. They are jobs, hobbies, activities that men feel comfortable pursuing, but other men traditionally may say, "Hey, this is feminine interest, brother. You'll be seen as weak if you partake in such." Man, big man don't do them thing there. So when people see you, probably you maybe have a hobby of some sort or something that interests you. Maybe you're baking, man. Because back then in the days, men didn't used to bake. I think it's changed. You probably might not have seen too much men in the kitchen except on the block bubbling a pot. But when it comes to certain things and certain food, it maybe only of probably lately a couple of years ago, you realize that maybe have changed. I know I got that to say about that. Let me hear you.
Well, I'm just going to shift a bit. When Bishop was talking, one thing came to mind: the importance of a father in a son's in a son's life and development, right? Because if a man is to learn how to really control that anger, and to pull the good out of it, um, I believe this is something that the father should teach. All right, and I once heard that somewhere, that a father, one of the main roles of a father is to help his son or to teach him how to control himself. Right, and I don't know the statistics, but from time to time you would hear that a majority of persons and males in prison, they come from fatherless homes. But I believe it highlights, based on what Bishop was saying, it highlights the need for fathers, and senior men to play a more active role and a more active part in the lives of young men, grooming them more or less into what God man should be,
So
right?
there's a difference. And I like what you're saying. You said that more than once for the night. The whole idea of what a God man is. The somebody might hear you saying a God man and think you're talking about a man that is a God. So I think I want you to go in a little detail into that. If you mention the topic, give us some more enlightenment as to as best as you can in terms of the whole idea of a God man. Because there is man, there is male, and according to you, there is a God man.
Well, I would say that's my term for describing
Right.
the man that God has called us to be.
Okay.
Um, and that is the leader of the house,
Right.
the head of the home, the head of the woman, right? And it's through us men that that kingship flows,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if we are not doing what we are called to do, then you would find that there is a breakdown in the family. And that's why it's from that trend of thought and teaching that I use the phrase the God man, because we are supposed to be God's representatives here on earth. Things that there's a way things flow, from the Father above,
Mm.
and we are supposed to be His representatives here on earth. So when I say God man, they are supposed to be seeing Christ in us. And we are supposed to, there are certain principles that we are supposed to teach and lay down to our families, to the church, to the nation. Yeah, so it's on that basis you hear me
Okay.
using.
Well, I hear you saying process when you say that, because unless one has been born into that environment where they receive or they have that opportunity to grow into that, to see a great example of that, to be taught that, as principle from a biblical standpoint, purposely, intentionally, you would see that men will have an issue. And when they become, well, boys first, when they become men thereafter, sometimes when they have to relearn certain things that they were not taught, it takes another couple years sometimes before they can fully adjust. It takes many mistakes, it takes many painful experience, and if man are not aware of that when they are being transformed by the renewing of their mind, if they are interested in it, then it could be heavy. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it could be happening and you're not aware. The spirit of God, the spirit of the Lord can be pushing you to make some change as a man in the way how you think because you are his own. But sometimes you're being resistant to that. I wouldn't say pressure, but I would say to that call to be that, that man, the leader, the king man, the God man, the Christ man, the man with Christ in his life who's supposed to, um, show certain characteristics. The character should be that of Christ. A man that is empathic, a man that is kind, a man that is loving, a man that is forgiving, a man that will speak soft, a man that will take them to understand others, a man that is compassionate, you know, a man that is vulnerable, a man that understands is not bad to weep sometimes, a man that mourns. These are the areas where we are called to go to as men and be, but many men are afraid and many men hide, and hence the reason why we having that discussion here tonight, because these things are being looked at as you're not a man. Some men have inadequacies and they are afraid to show them. It ain't funny. I mean, I had an experience with my own self where, I would say last year, and also I felt like I was afraid of certain things. I doing a job and like afraid literally like a big man, but I still afraid to talk to people. As I was saying, like, bro, I tell you, if I feel like I'm doing something not wrong in the sense that I'm wrong, but more in the sense like if I don't know, but like to call to ask for advice, I feel like people will look at me as being inadequate, and that thing, I wrestled with it for a while. And I remember one time I was going to deal, deal with these people regarding the work that's how I'm making my money, and this inadequate feeling come up on me and my belly started to burn me, man. You know what I mean? And it was so real. The anxiety inside of me and the fear, you know, and
That's it.
and it,
Yeah.
and you know what I had to do? Let me tell you what I had to do. I don't know. I wanted to go there in the end, but I guess we should. You know what I had to do? I had to tell some people what I experiencing, and the people them prayed about it. And even the day when I say, "Hey, I have to go and do this thing today," and my hand had to call my wife and say, "Babes, I'm feeling this way right now," and she prayed on the phone and she sent me two scripture. And I sit in the car and I pray too. And Bishop, I kid you not, a fire came up inside of me and he burned out the thing, and that was a breakthrough for me. It didn't happen in church. Nobody didn't lay hands on me. It was an experience I never got in my life. I tell you, literally like a fire, a heat. And I knew it was God at that time, because today, what I've seen happen and what I've experienced, it can't be nothing more than God. But I had to come to that place where I became vulnerable and open up and say to people, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm dealing with it from my youth, because I was told when I was younger, you're stupid and you won't be nothing in life. You're not able to do this and you're not able to do that. So these words, they linger inside of me and they broke down my self-confidence for years. I am a big man, but you know what I mean? So yeah, just to be real on that point, they say get where you're coming from. Go ahead though.
Yeah. The thing is beautiful when you made mention of that, because fear is an emotion, but the enemy could attach itself to our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Comes a spirit of fear.
True.
Fear is an emotion. I mean, you have uh sadness, you have brokenness, you have remorse, You
Right.
have things like frustration, you have depression, you have excitement, love. All these emotions are there. 50 different ranges of emotions. But
Mhm.
when the enemy attacks you, he would attack you based upon the area that you're reluctant. Because what happened is that the the broken, see, the broken becomes master of the mending, and when you go through certain things and you come to a place where you have to move on, that spirit will try to hold you back. The enemy will use that to hold you back into that level. And as you mentioned, prayer, that's one of the tokens of breakthrough. That's one of the areas where you get total breakthrough. Because as men, women are emotional. See, women have the emotional. But for men, the enemy attacks the area of our emotions to keep us in that parameter. And as our brother said, the leadership qualities are placed upon men. The rulership, the headship gifts, because you have headship gifts. So the one who carries the headship gifts, you also flow emotionally. But what the enemy does more than ever to men is attack with a spirit of, you see, because you could be proud of your family, but the spirit of pride could cause you to destroy that same family. You see, you could be frustrated, not knowing that in that frustration solutions will come, because that again is the built-in room. You could be frustrated with something that you're dealing with on the job, or a son or a daughter or a spouse, not knowing that that is the solution. But what the enemy does, he would create the spirit of fear so that you would not even venture to ask a question. You would hear that there's a men's seminar, or there's something online, and that spirit of fear would hit the atmosphere that you would not even want anyone to know that you're dealing with that issue. So that's how the enemy operates on all emotions. And you find now in the marketplace, women are grabbing all the jobs. Women are moving to the next level. If you sit and you look at how many women are driving and moving up in life, and men are, you ask them, have you ventured to find out about that job? The spirit of fear just attacks. And those are some of the areas we have to really, emphasize on. Because struggle, what we need to really say strongly on platforms like these is that struggle is just an announcement that you're not yet conquered. That's all it is. It's just an announcement that you're not yet conquered. And don't let the enemy allow that spirit of fear to try to trap you and close you in to the point where you would not even venture to try. Because there are five D's of the enemy, and one of them is delay. The enemy will always use delay so that you would put off doing that thing you should do. You find a lot of men, they put off going to the doctor, put off going to the gym, put off going to church. That's a spirit of delay. And one of the D's is denial. The enemy will use that denial upon men more than ever. And we see it more than ever, where you just live in denial. Now remember, you could live in denial because the inverse of denial is faith. The inverse of denial is faith. But if you allow it to dwell, the enemy would attach that spirit of denial to a point where you just don't even believe that you could make it. So there's denial, there's delay, there's diversion. You just keep focusing on the wrong things, looking at the wrong, who is really behind the issue. You're far from attaching the blame to the enemy. You begin to blame your partner. You begin to blame the pastor. You begin to blame a friend. So the enemy uses. He's defeated. Remember, he's defeated, and we must say this very strongly. The enemy has been defeated as of Calvary. He is defeated. but he's going to use, or as men, or 50 ranges of emotions: incompetence, surprise, hopelessness, weariness. Sometimes you're feeling adventurous, and the enemy just shut down that area. Sometimes you're dealing with grief, and he could turn, just switch that grief into anger. Sometimes you're dealing with anxiety, rejection. And rejection, one of the things with men, when rejection is in the atmosphere, it shuts down a man from functioning 100%. Not knowing that the spirit of rejection is always based upon superiority. The stone that the builders rejected becomes the head of the corner. And even as Sabi was mentioning, the feelings that he had was some issue way back, words that were spoken. These are spirits of inherit, intergenerational spirits that would also attach themselves when you get to that place in your life where you should be doing your best. That spirit just hits the atmosphere, boom, and shuts down your whole rise to the next level. At the same time, brokenness causes you as a man to function in such a way where you become the mender, because your testimony, and this is what the psalmist David was masterful. That's why he was called a man after God's own heart, because he would go through his struggles and he would become master of the mended by brokenness. Even Psalm 34, I will bless the Lord at all times. That psalm was written because of brokenness, rejection, and almost lost his life.
Well, one thing you said that well, to because something I come to realize, so to re-emphasize it. I mean, you said so many things, but there's this one thing that I want men to really pay attention to, is the tricks that the enemy will play. How he would use your strength and turn it and twist it and cause you to fall into a pit. Yeah, men have to be aware of that. When you said you could have pride, for example, but the pride could turn out to be bad pride. But pride could be a good thing too, because it will keep you from certain things. But you could have too much of pride. You understand what I'm saying? Where the pride works against you.
The spirit off, yeah, the spirit
Yeah,
off.
the spirit of
The emotion is there,
is there.
spirit off. Anytime the spirit of pride comes, you know that that's a downfall. That's a
Hmm.
down. And
So
that's why
man,
Solomon, yeah, that's why Solomon took so much time to, speak to the young man, my
yeah.
son. If you're coming into manhood, these are some of the things that you're going to see. And he begins to, build that highway. He said, you're on a highway. On this side of the highway, there's wisdom. On the opposite side is like two service providers. Which one do you want to subscribe to? You have
Right.
foolishness on this side of the highway. And you might be driving and you see these billboards advertising, and that's what Solomon was trying to get into the young men. These spirits of defeat, they're advertising. At the same time, wisdom is spending millions advertising. Defeat is spending billions advertising. And their billboards seem to be larger. The billboards seem to be screaming with all kinds of high definition colors. And wisdom is now saying, hey, I'm here. I'm the principal thing. And because we are wired to think in pictures, we go for foolishness. We go for the foolish, because the enemy is going to use all the high definition, psychedelical, colors to attract us.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And even as you're speaking, Bishop, it just brings out a point. Men, we need to have that environment where men can be men, where men can, as the scripture speaks about, iron sharpening iron, right? Where men can glean from each other, and it's important for us to have that space where men, can, speak to each other.
And they,
That kind of communication, because when you're for yourself, it's much easier for the enemy. Those big glittering, well lit billboards
to get
with
your
the
attention.
negative emotions and so to get your attention, right? Than to go on the side of wisdom. And I think, even tonight, forums like these, more of these are needed because men really they just need to hear it.
Yeah.
A lot of times they need to hear more about
But
manhood.
because most men they can't they stuck on looking at the glittering stuff so much that they don't really make time to jump on a program like this.
Hmm.
And that's the sad part about it.
Yeah.
No, few men take time to really, as Roger was talking about, the mind to ensure the mind is in the right place and they are feeding themselves. But something like this is boring, so men will fall asleep. You don't see much men on programs like these. But
But what is interesting, Sabi, and maybe
mhm,
Bishop could help us through scriptures understand this more. I,
mhm,
um, I inherent in the DNA of man is the image of God, and when we live in denial, is why we choose to do things differently, um, to convince ourselves that, or to justify why what we are doing. Because in the same breath, many of men who do not live the God mans, and while Senbi was speaking, and I just looked it up, and First Timothy 6:11, Paul said to Timothy, "But you, O man of God, flee these things and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, gentleness." When we don't do it ourselves, you know something, we are the same men. When we are looking towards our father, looking towards a leader, whether it's on the job or whether it's a political leader, do you know, interestingly, these are the very same qualities we want out of the leader, that person that we look into. Somebody that is righteous, somebody that is of good faith, that is loving, that is patient, that is gentle, that is God fearing. And we hear it a lot, especially in Grenada, right? So if we know that, I think intrinsic, inherent in the DNA, then there's something that already convicted us that this is how we should be. Isn't that enough reason, if is if it, that if it's something that we are looking for in a leader, isn't that enough reason to tell us that, hey, we are not aligned, something obviously wrong?
Yeah, at times we reflect on the issues like that because he has put eternity in our hearts. And even as Moses tried his best to deal with Israel, Israel saw the fullness of God, yet the heart of man was so desperately wicked. They told Moses in the book of Numbers, they said, you took us out of the land of milk and honey. Moses said, no, we are going to the land of milk and honey. They said, no. You see, they saw the fullness of God, they saw the splendor of Him. And hence the reason in this day and time, God has removed Himself from the picture so that it will be faith, the faith plus absolutely nothing equals salvation. So He removed Himself from the picture. And now everyone is saying, where is He? Where is He? When He was, the human heart is like that. When He was evident, when He was king, when He was ruler, when he was taking them out of Egypt, they saw the fullness of God. They saw the Red Sea. That generation saw everything that God wanted to do for them. The water out of the rock, the manna that fell from the sky. And they decided, listen, we are going to build a God that we could handle, we could control. And we are going to say, this is the God that brought us out of Egypt. And God said, what in the world? He said, Moses, I'm going to destroy this generation, step aside, and I'm going to build a new people. Moses now, he jumps into the fray and said, no, if you only touch them, what would the enemy say? So God said, okay, you really want this? And before you know it, Moses could not even get to the promised land, because the same people he tried to intercede for and he tried to intercept the hand of God for, they cause him now the environment. So the environment that we are in, God has removed certain things. He's coming in, or we're going to see him, because there's a reward for them that just look for him the second time. But faith, what we have to look at is faith plus absolutely nothing equals salvation. So he has given us this era, this generation, to build faith, to build resilience, because they that now approach him must believe, according to Hebrews 11. You cannot please him apart from faith. You cannot function apart from faith, because even as our brother in studio mentioned, iron sharpened iron. You could have some partners that could really lead you down a crazy road, and at the same time you could have men that will build you, because it's a work. The enemy could work on your friends to get to you, because he studies the man. There was a man, the richest. There were only about three billionaires in the Bible: Abraham, Job, and Solomon. When it came to the first billionaire, the devil said, I studied this man so much that the devil had his own allegory and parable. He said, skin for skin, all that you do for this man, you only touch him, he's going to curse you to your face. So the enemy studies the man that is rising. He studies the man that is achieving. He doesn't study the man that is always falling over, because he knows that he has him trapped in that zone. But the man that is rising, the man that is focused, the man that is resolute, the man that has been broken and is now rising out of brokenness into a place where he can now mend. You see, according to Isaiah 61, there are things that only when the anointing, only when faith comes, you're able to mend. The man that is able to mend, he's going to go after that man, because he's a destiny changer. He's a world changer. He's not a chameleon. He's not a sociopath, but he's a world changer. So when you come to that place where you're a world changer, you have to watch out, because the enemy is going to come at you. You see?
Yeah, my point, the Bishop. Let me and I'm looking at the time there, but I really want us to get through this tonight. So some of the other areas I think we can look at, and we can brush through them in terms of when thinking about man and dealing or unmasking their emotion. You have men, for example, their physical appearance has a lot to how they feel in terms of comparison with others. Like a man might feel, oh, he my belly too big, or I don't have enough chest, or some men doesn't have breasts. So that man might be taken on that. He goes because he's trying to find his identity so much in his appearance that it affects him mentally. And there's like a pressure that is placed on men sometimes, that cause them to feel insecure where their body image is concerned. The man that know he is created in the image and the likeness of God, not that he don't care. It's important that man care for themselves. I think it's something that it doesn't make you manly to care for yourself. It is a good thing to do, to eat right and to exercise and do what you have to do, or at least eat right if you can't find enough time to exercise much so that you don't, you know, you battery the temper. But it can be hard sometimes on some men where even social media and all the models, people who are well airbrushed, you know, them people, and you look at them looking so refined on the TV, on the screen. You even know how can I AI? You want to be like, you know, you realize what you're looking at is not even real. And there you're beating yourself in the gym like and you're taking so much protein and you're muling, and you're asking yourself just to feel like you're a man because you have some muscles. I mean, come on, man. I don't think all of that is even necessary. The Bible tells us bodily exercise profited very little. Some men do exercise in the spiritual side of their life to grow in that area so they can, make it right with God, because there's one truth: no matter how much you work on your body, it's going to get old. And there's gonna come a time, even though you have muscle on that skin, one day you're going to die, brother. Still
It's a,
take care of yourself.
it's a
Take,
balance, you know.
what's it?
It's a balance.
A balance. There you go.
You
Mhm.
from our forum, we must always emphasize that the body, the soul, the spirit is really a balance. It comes down to
Yeah.
choices, you know.
Hmm.
Comes down to, because I've seen men who are not taking care of themselves. I've seen men who are well uh, shaped in their physique, and they get together and they laugh because they have one, as our brother was saying, iron rarely sharpens iron at every level. Birds
True.
of a feather are fried at KFC. You see, they will find that that common denominator, whether it be alcohol, whether it be a party, a lime, and they know, and they mask that. You see, that's where the masking comes in. They know, I know my partner ain't doing good, I know he dealing with some issues. I could see, because when you really want to know a man, when you truly want to know a man, you look at how he takes care of his feet or his shoes. The shoes will tell you what's happening in the whole entirety. Even the people who do reflexology, they will tell you all of the organs happen in the feet. All of the organs could be massaged and addressed from the feet. So they know that they're dealing with that. But the point that I want to bring out is that even before man sinned, God gave him a blessing to harness the creativity. You see, the creativity was there even before sin came. So Adam was given this ability to harness everything that he needed from the environment, and that's where we see the artist, the musician. They are pulling things out of the mind. They're pulling things out of thin air. You see some paintings. You see some things in technology. You see some things happening for the architects, some buildings going up, and you say, "Wow!" You see the likeness and image is still there. You see, the balance is still there, because you cannot, even as Savi was saying, you can't grow the body. You can't grow your body, but you have to build the body. See, you have to build the body. You're responsible for having a healthy body, and you have to build the soul, and you have to grow the spirit man. If you don't grow the spirit man, you know that an unhealthy soul is going to murder the spirit. That's the thing. If you have Cain and you have Abel, Cain is always going to kill Abel. And the lesson there is that an unhealthy soul is always going to murder the spirit. And then you can't trust the flesh. Adam was made flesh. And before you know it, the whole blessing was turned into a curse, because the flesh, you have to build the body, you have to get the vitamins, you have to get the nutrition. And that's why God made mention of eating. You see that tree, you could eat, You could get your vitamin D here, you could get your vitamin. He said, but that tree in the center, don't eat of it. And the moment you hear don't, the mind cannot even conceive don't. The mind can't see negative. So everything that we are dealing with is a setup by God, because it's from the point that I made earlier on, it's from brokenness. The best of the mender arises in you as a man from brokenness, especially those who have a divine destiny. He causes brokenness to come, whether at a teenage stage, whether at just a puberty stage, and he allows that now to develop in such a way where you become a great mender.
No, you have to realize it. So once you realize it, is a plus. All right, let me jump down quickly on some, just if you can share some practical tools. Bishop already on that area, and I like the fact that you're saying, well, from your brokenness, that's a good place to start. Is recognizing that, hey, there's an issue that needs to be addressed. Cause if you're not addressing the issue, then you ain't gonna grow. You ain't gonna grow. And a lot of times it's the spirit man that need to really go to a point where it can defeat and overcome the issues of the flesh. And so I just wanted to share, each man, you could share as it comes to mind, maybe two or three. Just state them two or three if you want to explain them. We don't have plenty time in terms of like some practical things you think men can do in terms of helping them to express or to unmask some of the unhealthy emotions that they have, so that they can portray a more healthier one, and just become who God has really created them to be. I will share. I believe you said it earlier on, and that is one I think is really good, to deal with how you feel. Deal with how you feel. Express yourself without losing yourself. So much time men express themselves and they're losing themselves in the process because they turn monsters and all kind of creatures when they start to express themselves. So I want to encourage men, even as you don't suppress your feeling, but you decide to express your feeling, don't lose yourself in expressing it. I had to tell my son, okay, I don't want you to misunderstand me, all right? And I will mask my feeling. If you do something and I'm upset, I say to him, listen, I'm not mad at you. I may be upset, so my voice probably go up a little. I have to explain that to him, because if I don't do that, he can probably think that he always mad at me, or maybe you coming at me hard. And young children, the emotion is a little bit at a place, as God was saying, you need to tell them. So I said to him, I'm not mad at you. That's just how I just express myself. My voice might go up a little, but not that I'm mad at you, right? He said that, yeah, no. I was like, okay. He tell me no, right? Because you can find them sometimes running and hide if your voice go up a little, right? And again, maybe it's not always the best way to express yourself, but remember, we are human still, and we came from somewhere and we learned some things. Maybe we're not perfect. I reach a place where I can talk soft when I'm upset so much, yet at times I can manage it, and there are times when I will just, I might just sing a little bit louder than the normal tone. You understand? Or the depths in the voice might change. You understand what I'm saying? All right. And I think most importantly for me, I think men need to ask for help where there are reoccurring challenges in certain areas of their lives. Like, be able to ask for help, recognize you're dealing with something and you can't, this thing not helping you, so you need to go ask for help. Find out who can help you, or maybe read a book. Go and probably search your web. Pray, ask God to help someone to help you. Desire to change the way you think. A lot of people, because they don't desire to change, they think what they are doing may just be right, or if it is wrong, they feel like they don't know how to shift from that place, because they may have this whole question hanging over their head, and because they cannot find a answer as to how to move from that place, they tend to stay stuck right there and say, I know I'm dealing with it, but I don't know how to move from point A to B. But man, you're even asking nobody for help, or you go move. You understand?
Well,
I
that's
stick.
something, sir.
Yeah.
men seldomly ask for help. That
Yeah.
yeah, I was driving one day and we my wife and I we got lost.
Mm.
I knew we were lost. And the reason why we got lost is she told me take that road. So I we are on this road for the whole day. We drive from one bridge to the next bridge, find ourselves at the end of Long Island. And I don't want to stop and ask somebody because it's my first time being lost in a place like that. And do you know, about 2 years after that, that's the same place I had to go work in. And I was just, I couldn't say a word because here I am after the incident, and I have to drive in the same place, and I'm no longer lost because every corner I remember it because I was so worried about getting out of this place because the sun was going down. And when we find it, because we don't want to stop as men and ask for help because we want to solve the problem because that has been placed in us. And even as Savi said, the way you respond to your son and the way we speak and modulate our voice is something that has been passed into us, that has been passed into the next generation. Because you have to know that the greatest generation was in the 1930s. They call that the greatest generation. These people are no longer alive. So when it comes to the millennials or the baby boomers, as they say, Generation X, Generation Y, then you have the Alpha generation. Everything that we are dealing with now has been passed on, and the only filter that we have, or the paradigm that we have, is prayer and the Holy Spirit to help us. Because apart from that, we are no good. We are absolutely no good on our own. We need Him, you know. We need that.
Yeah, for me, I would say I would recommend to men that they take time, whether it be daily, weekly, to reflect and meditate. A lot of things happen during the week, during the day, and I think it's important to reflect on, a lot of the emotions that would have come up during the day or during the week. I know for me, there was some emotions that kept coming up, and it's through this process I was really able to get to the bottom of, where it stemmed from. And I do believe it put me in a better place to get help for it. Right. So I want to recommend that men, we're not too busy that we can't take a 10 minutes when the day come, just a time of reflection. Or you could do it once a week. But that's one of the things I would leave with the men tonight. Have that time of reflection, introspection weekly.
Yes, and we were on target as to what I was coming with, and I was coming it on the basis that you're doing that reflection, understanding that you ought to become a better version of yourself, and you need to learn from something. How do I anything, right? How do I learn from this? How do I learn from this? How do I learn from this? And in reflection, always try. You could take a pen and paper, or you could just mentally try to make a note of it, right? Always try to ask the whys. Okay, so example. Some years ago, when my children was much smaller, leaving home to get to work on time was really a challenge, and I always keep blaming my wife for reaching to work late, because there's all these things that has to be done, before she leave the house. To have really understand it, I had to reflect on it and ask the whys. Um, why are we leaving late? Okay, we are leaving late because my wife has to do all of these things to prepare herself. Why does she have to do all of these things to prepare herself? Well, she wants to look pleasant. Okay, why is it taking her all this time? Well, because we getting up late. Okay, why are we getting up late? Because we going to bed late. Why are we going to bed late? Because we had to prepare all these stuff, lunch and so on for the children
Yeah.
the next day. Why are we doing this? Well, because we don't want to buy, we want to save money, right? Why are we trying to save money? I'll tell you this, you can, after asking so much whys, you are going to reach a point where you recognize that you yourself have a role to play in all of this, the outcomes. And if you're really honest about it, you'll see why it was important to help her the night in the preparation of the lunch. So then two persons could have gotten it done faster, they've gone to
Yeah.
bed earlier,
Yeah.
right? So those reflections are really important, as Sanbi was saying, so that we do it intentionally
Yeah.
because we want to become a better person.
True. I also would add men need to distance themselves from toxic company, bad company. As the Bible says, it corrupts good character. And you'll find men who want to be friends with certain men that will say to you, "Come, let's go lime in the night, man. Yo, we link up." And you're linking up, and next morning you have work, and your wife and your children home, and you're talking about it. You're going to work late, and you still want to blame the wife because in the morning, I up and ready, Ollie, and all it taking forever. Boy, she's still cooking lunch for you, boy. Last night you go and hang with your virgin and them. You didn't thinking about this morning, so and other areas, men who sometimes wanna, so yeah, some companies you just need to company to distance yourself from. And I think for me the last one I would want to encourage men who might have a hard time with that is to really learn how to be empathic and how to show empathy and how to be compassionate. I think that is key for us as men. Yeah, especially men who are married, men who have children. Not every time the kids do something wrong, you have to, be on them. Sometimes you have to see them as children. Sometimes you have to learn to see your wife as a woman with emotion, as Roger was talking about a while ago at in Bishop also. And you have to tend to like just put yourself in their position and find a better way to respond than just every time you have to be at them they already know. Sometimes you have to lose them. Today today I was in the office doing something a little late and my wife was waiting at me and I say, Lord, she will eat me when I reach. But a thought crossed my mind. What if when you reach she doesn't eat you? You understand, right? And because I had her waiting, you know. And I know when I told her last I was coming, it was gonna be 10 minutes, which turned out to be about but at 30 minutes she comes in. So and that's the thought crossed my mind. What if she does not eat you? Like, well, that would be nice. Me having to talk to myself in my head that you didn't keep me waiting so long. Your 10 minutes is like a grenade in 10 minutes. You know what I mean? So I didn't get eaten, guys, and it felt really good that I could have just come and pick her up and have just a conversation. But I sent a message on the way to say I was doing something that took a little longer, but I needed to finish it up. I didn't see two ticks, so I didn't show she even read the message. If you check what I'm saying, I didn't get eaten. So sometimes we can choose to not respond the way how people probably might think we might respond when they are wrong, and they could come back around and have a conversation and say, I chose that emotion as Bishop was talking about. I chose that emotion, but I want you to know you can do better next time because it's not good to keep me waiting, and you can have nice conversation. You get something more out of that. You understand? So that's my last piece right there. As, it's a record of the mind. You understand what I'm saying, guys? It's a changing in the mind and the way how we see things. Sometimes as men we can see women, our wives, or maybe even our children, because so much is placed upon us, and it's like everybody wants something and they want it from you, and it's like where do I get what I when do I get what I want also? Who cares about what I want or what I need, a matter of fact, to keep this mental state of mind in a good, peaceful position. Everybody asking for something. You're going to work, you're solving clients. Everybody calling, I want this, I want that, I want that. But what about you? You understand? And these things could cause men at some point to just become discouraged and say, I had enough. I just need a break. I wish I could just go somewhere. It shouldn't be that way. It should be that you're balance. As Bishop said, you need to balance. If you're not balancing well, you'll have some serious problem. Because you'll be leaning, you'll be tilting, All the weight is on one side. The thing is not even. And sometimes you have to pay attention. When you see one side leading too much, you know you need to tilt back the other side. You are in control. God give you that the ability to make choice. So choose what you think, choose what you feel, And if you can control it and you need help, go and ask Bishop or call Sabi or Roger and say, yo, I got to, I go into that. What you think is it? Because when you head hot, we know, when we head hot, we don't think straight. So sometimes now we need somebody to give us a different perspective on things to help us to realign ourselves and get things into perspective. We all need to have a good friend that we can call on, someone that will tell us the truth even when it is, hurting sometimes because not what you want to hear. Saturday we were just saying, the wounds of a friend, faithful are the wounds of a friend, and Gideon said, I don't comprehend that portion yet, Yeah, Bishop, you want to share for 1 minute about the wounds of a friend?
Yeah, well, that's the time, the brokenness or the wounds, that's the time when you really know that you have someone that truly sees you
Mm,
equal, co-equal. Because Ammon, the son of David, he raped his sister Tamar, but
mm,
he was given this instruction by a friend.
wow.
And then Absalom killed him. And the moment Absalom killed him, that wound was not just a personal wound, it was a family wound.
Mm,
And David refused to address it, to the point where Ahithophel was a powerful counselor. This man had an anointing to counsel.
mm-hmm,
And he begins now to put that counsel into the ear of Absalom. And Absalom began to draw from Ahithophel strong counsel, to a point where they said, we got to kill David. And yeah, it came so strong because they can't. This man is a man of war, and to sit, if you want to sit in his seat, not only are you going to take the kingdom, but you have to kill him, because this man, surrounding this man, is not just
Quick squeaks.
yeah, this man has some warriors around him, not just
Yeah.
soldiers, but warriors around him. So counsel and wounds. David was wounded. As a matter of fact, David had to run from the palace
Mm,
barefooted. And
right.
he's capturing this in the Psalms. And Absalom now is listening to Ahithophel. And David now, he has to begin now to pray, to intercede, to break this, because there are strongholds, A stronghold is a dangerous wound. So when David begins to intercede, hear what David says. He says, Lord, overturn the counsel of Ahithophel. If
Wow.
he pray, because Ahithophel is telling Absalom, take 30,000 men now
Yeah.
and
Take him
end
out.
this thing tonight.
Yeah.
And God had to send a prophet who nobody knows. A man out of the woodwork just comes and says, hey, don't send 30,000 men.
Mm,
And that overturned the counsel of Ahithophel. And listen, the man Ahithophel was so wounded that he took off home and hanged himself. He put his house in order and hung himself, because no one has ever rejected his counsel. Because
wow.
ego, again, the enemy could use ego to destroy you. You see, because men, and the point that I want to emphasize, men are not emotional, but they have emotions.
Mm,
Women are not logical, but they are emotional. So you see the inverse. So when women struggle with logic, men are logical. When
wow.
men struggle with emotions, women are emotional. You see? So we need the help, because when God took the woman out of the man, he was going for the rib. He knew why he went for the rib. So when God took that rib, he didn't go for the femur or any other bone in it. He went for that rib, because that rib now is going to be able to give the emotional, the heartbeat for the man who is struggling with emotions, and give to us the logic of how we are going to do what needs to be done in our lives, in and around the home. And if we don't work together as a unit, the logic and the emotions are going to always collide.
What's your speaker book day? The whole book. It's a whole other program in itself day. Roger.
We
Yeah,
all we
yeah,
always we always seem to ending up on a note that generates a topic in
yeah,
itself.
yeah, yeah.
What a program!
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Logic, and emotion. Yeah,
Yeah, that's how it is. When
yeah.
they shot President Kennedy, you know what the men were saying? The men were saying, "Where are the Joint Chiefs? Where's the Vice President? Who's in charge of the army?" You know what the women were saying?
Wanna feed our
Women were
children.
saying, "Oh, poor Jackie and those children."
Yeah.
That's where the wiring comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be driving, and we are going on the coastal, and my wife is there, and our coconut drops. I already know I have to go left because the coconut drop right. But she doesn't care about left or right. She wants to grab the wheel. She wants to press the brakes. She wants to shout in my ear. So I'm trying to logically move the car from that
Yeah.
coconut. And then the scream that I'm hearing in my ears, I begin to get confused.
Yeah. I know
I'm
what you're
like,
saying.
what was all of that for? But
Yeah.
that's how it is. That's how it
Yeah.
is.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
important to know, eh?
Yeah. And once you don't know it's emotions talking versus your logic,
Logic, yeah.
you're gonna try to attack the emotions
Yeah.
with logic. And before you know it, the spirit of anger just rests in that
There's a
that room.
plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And blow that thing out of proportion.
Proportion, yeah.
Yeah.
Is
So
it
the
is it is it
apostles.
that is that the same logic that makes us when they say, okay, go to the grocery, buy butter. We go to the grocery, we buy
You
butter.
just buy butter. Yeah, I've done that several times. I just pick up butter. Yeah, that's it. Because you see butter. By the
Yeah.
time I get home, it's garlic butter. I have
Not what I wanted.
happens to the best of
They buy
and
the
one
wrong butter.
time, so I have to now go and wait and look, because all of the butters have the same. The brand is there, but it's
Yeah.
garlic. I keep picking up garlic.
Hmm.
So you're so right, Roger. You're so right on that. You're so right on that. That's
Guys,
how the
let's,
logic works.
let's be still level. Let me end the program. But I would like for us to continue on that one. Logic and emotion. Logical men, emotional women. I find I like that. I find I like that. I think it's a good conversation to have next week. All right. So
That means we have to bring a woman on the program.
afraid I want song like trouble. You can anyway, let me careful what I say now. I'll keep my mouth shut now. Oh, I'll hold off for next week, God's willing. You understand? Well, guys, let me say thank you guys for taking the time to join us. And we thank you for, coming through short notice. I know you may say in your mind next week you want to come back and be a part of that conversation. You understand? Well, if you
God's will, Thompson will be here. Man.
yeah. But it was a pleasure having you tonight with us again, bro. And Bishop, we catch up on Thursday for another awesome conversation, brother Roger. You know it go. You understand? So enjoy your night, guys. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your night. I like the note we end on. Trust me, that one have me smiling. You know, yeah, that one have me smiling. So blessings, man, blessings,
All right,
and
blessings. Pleasant
Blessings.
night to everyone.
Yeah,
so
and condolence, brother Duncan. Be strong, and blessings and shalom to your family.
yeah, man.
Appreciate.
Yeah.
Appreciate. Thank you very much.
God bless
All
you.
right, yeah. Later, guys.